Before we reveal the 5 drivers Jimmie Johnson could not stand, we need to understand what he accomplished. Because his story is not just about winning championships, it is about doing it so consistently that people stopped believing it was possible. Jimmie Johnson was born on September 17, 1975, in El Cajon, California. Racing was not handed to him through family legacy. He earned it through off-road racing, stadium trucks, and a path that looked nothing like traditional stock car drivers. When he reached the Cup Series in 2001 with Hendrick Motorsports, skeptics wondered if a California kid could survive in a sport built by Southern veterans. He did more than survive. He dominated. Johnson's first championship came in 2006, then 2007, 2008, 2009, and 2010. 5 consecutive titles, a feat no driver in history had ever achieved. He added 2 more in 2013 and 2016, tying Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt with 7 championships total, 83 career victories, numbers that forced even his harshest critics to admit they were watching greatness. But success like that does not come without friction. Johnson's calm exterior made rivals believe he was soft. His corporate polish made veterans think he was manufactured rather than earned. And when Johnson squeezed cars in corners or blocked on restarts, that contrast between his public image and his on-track aggression created resentment that never disappeared. On the track, Johnson was ruthless when championships were at stake. He bumped competitors at Martinsville. He blocked aggressively at Talladega. He made moves that pushed limits, then acted surprised when drivers retaliated. At 54 years old, Jimmie Johnson has nothing left to protect. The 5 drivers on this list are the men who tested his limits and made him race with an edge sharper than anyone realized. Number 5. Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski brought a level of fearlessness that irritated Jimmie Johnson from the first time they battled for a championship. Keselowski raced like he had nothing to lose. He dove into corners late. He blocked without hesitation, and he refused to give Johnson the space veterans typically showed to 7-time champions. At Chicagoland in 2010, Keselowski bumped Johnson on a late restart, costing him positions in a championship battle. Johnson's frustration was immediate. After the race, his words were measured but sharp. He called Keselowski's move over-aggressive and unnecessary. For Johnson, who valued precision over chaos, more Keselowski's style felt reckless. Then came Talladega. Keselowski blocked Johnson so aggressively on the final lap that both cars nearly wrecked at 200 miles per hour. Johnson saved it, but the resentment stayed. Keselowski had proven he was not intimidated by Johnson's legacy, and that disrespect, real or perceived, earned him a permanent place on this list. Number 4. Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth was quiet, methodical, and dangerously patient. That patience is what bothered Johnson most. Kenseth never retaliated immediately. He waited. He calculated. And when the moment arrived, he struck without warning or mercy. At Kansas in 2015, Kenseth squeezed Johnson into the wall on a late restart. Johnson's car was damaged. His championship hopes took a hit. After the race, Johnson's calm demeanor cracked slightly. He called Kenseth's move questionable and aggressive. For a driver who rarely criticized opponents publicly, that statement carried weight. But the defining moment came at Martinsville later that season. Kenseth intentionally wrecked Joey Logano under yellow in an act of revenge that shocked the entire sport. Johnson watched from the garage. His reaction was complicated. He respected the boldness, but he hated the recklessness. Kenseth had crossed from competitor into chaos agent. Their personal tension grew when Kenseth joined Johnson's team at Hendrick Motorsports. They shared the same owner, the same garage, the same resources, but respect never fully developed. Kenseth drove with quiet intensity that made Johnson's controlled aggression seem calculated, and Johnson never forgot drivers who made racing feel unpredictable. Matt Kenseth earned his spot on this list not through one moment, but through years of tension that never truly disappeared. Number 3. Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch and Jimmie Johnson were teammates at Hendrick Motorsports. That should have created respect. Instead, it created tension that never fully healed. Busch raced Johnson like any other competitor, refusing to give his teammate the space Johnson believed he had earned through 5 consecutive championships. At Richmond, Busch squeezed Johnson on a restart so tightly that the 48 car nearly hit the wall. Johnson radioed his frustration immediately. The crew heard the anger in his voice. Busch had made racing personal, even inside the same organization. After the race, Johnson's words were direct. He called Busch's move unnecessary and aggressive for a teammate. Then came the 2008 season when both were fighting for the championship. Busch won 8 races that year but finished second in points to Johnson. The resentment from that season never disappeared. Busch believed he was the faster driver. Johnson believed consistency mattered more than raw speed. That philosophical difference created friction that lasted long after Busch left Hendrick for Joe Gibbs Racing. Off the track, their personalities clashed. Busch was emotional and unapologetic. Johnson was controlled and measured. Busch talked trash. Johnson kept his thoughts private. For 2 drivers who shared the same garage for years, the respect between them was always conditional at best. Or number 2, Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick brought intensity that matched Jimmie Johnson's in every way. Both were championship contenders. Both refused to back down, and both believed the other crossed lines that should never be tested. Their battles defined an entire era of racing. At Charlotte in 2007, Harvick bumped Johnson on the final restart, costing him a victory Johnson thought he had secured. Johnson confronted Harvick after the race. The conversation was brief, heated, and settled nothing. Harvick smiled through it all, as if the conflict fueled him. Then came Martinsville. Harvick blocked Johnson so aggressively entering Turn 1 that the 48 car had to lift at full speed. Johnson's fury was immediate. After the race, he called Harvick's blocking dangerous and over the line. For a driver who rarely showed public anger, with that criticism revealed how deep the frustration ran. Their tension lasted years. Every championship battle between them felt personal. Every contact on track carried extra weight. Kevin Harvick was not just a rival. He was the competitor who refused to acknowledge Johnson's dominance. Number 1, Jeff Gordon. There was only one driver who truly got under Jimmie Johnson's skin, more than any other. Jeff Gordon. Not because of dirty racing, not because of public feuds, but because Gordon brought something Johnson could never escape. The shadow of a teammate who got there first. Jeff Gordon was Johnson's teammate at Hendrick Motorsports. He was also his mentor, his friend, and the driver everyone compared him to constantly. When Johnson won his first championship in 2006, people said he copied Gordon's approach. When he won 5 straight, they said Gordon's crew chief had built the foundation. Johnson could never separate his success from Gordon's legacy, no matter how many trophies he collected. On the track, the tension was subtle, but real. At Martinsville, Gordon bumped Johnson during a championship battle, costing him track position. At Bristol, Gordon blocked Johnson aggressively on a restart. Each move felt intentional. Each contact carried extra weight because they wore the same colors and shared the same pit box. Off the track, the comparison never stopped. Reporters asked Johnson if he could match Gordon's 4 championships, then if he could exceed them. When Johnson tied Gordon at 4, the questions shifted to whether his titles meant as much. The constant comparison created resentment Johnson rarely showed publicly, but never fully escaped privately. The worst part was knowing Gordon would always be first to bring Hendrick a modern championship, first to prove the Rainbow Warriors could dominate, first to change what success looked like at that organization. Johnson won more championships, but Gordon's legacy cast a shadow that 7 titles could never completely erase. That is why Jeff Gordon sits at number 1, not because he was the biggest rival, but because he was the one driver Jimmie Johnson could never truly surpass, no matter how hard he tried. Jimmie Johnson's 7 championships were never built on friendship. Brad Keselowski, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Jeff Gordon pushed him harder than any track ever could. They tested his limits and made him race with an edge sharper than anyone realized. At 54, Johnson no longer hides the truth. Subscribe for more untold racing stories.